Okay. Hello and welcome to my talk on issues in sharing data in shared homes. To explore the effect of smart sensors and services on the communal life in the home, my colleagues and I developed and deployed a research product called Sensor Station. Sensor Station consists of wireless sensors, a shared input device for sensor configuration, a shared output device displaying a steady data stream of sensor-based notifications. We also integrated the messenger service Telegram, which enabled participants to receive sensor notifications from anywhere. It was designed to be used by people, regardless of their technical knowledge, to empower them to explore and deploy smart home applications in their home by their own design. The input device guides the person through the configuration process. This implies choosing a sensor tag, which is one of those small devices, a sensor, setting a threshold, and typing a message that will be displayed on the output interface once the event got triggered. A group of 4 students, 2 male and 2 female, developed during a 19-day field phase several smart home applications for their apartment, which I now like to talk about. The group was particularly interested in using sensors to create and strengthen positive connections between each other. One resident, for example, attached his sensor tag to the kitchen window and configured the sensor in that way that it sends the message, "Good morning," at sunrise. Another resident attached his sensor tag to the mascot of the shared apartment, a cardboard figure from the cartoon SpongeBob placed in the hallway, which sent the message, "Who maltreats my pet?" every time someone walked by. He explained it as a provocative statement in which the cardboard figure is seen as a living being and was considered rather entertaining within the group. Another form of sensor-based interaction he developed by hiding the sensor tag unobtrusively between magnets on the refrigerator door. When the door was opened, he wished his flatmates, with the help of the sensor, to enjoy their meal. He used the motion sensor as a communication medium to give his flatmates pleasure and communicate with them regardless of his presence. The group received the notification when they opened the refrigerator, but could not find it immediately. So they took that to the occasion to play hide and seek with the sensor tag. However, the group did not only develop sensor applications for positive interaction among each other. They also developed different sensor applications for control. While most smart home applications targeted all residents, applications for self-monitoring were only used by individuals and were deployed exclusively in private rooms. In order to protect their eyes, 2 residents placed their sensor tag on their desk under their reading light. And when the measured brightness value dropped below a threshold, they received a notification to turn on their lamp. One resident controlled not only her environment, but also herself. In order to monitor and eventually reduce the amount of time she spends on her mobile phone, she placed her sensor tag on her desk next to her smartphone. Each time she picked up her smartphone, she received a message which she hoped would make her more aware of her behavior so that she can consciously adjust it. Another form of control explored by the group was the control of others. The residents developed applications to instruct and nudge residents to change certain behavior. The implementation was carried out by attaching the sensor tags in for the residents' freely accessible premises of their apartment, such as the bathroom, kitchen, and hallway. In many cases, the explicit wish to show and promote compliant behavior was expressed. One resident used his sensor tag to instruct flatmates about correct waste separation. For this purpose, when opening the organic waste bin, the motion sensor triggered and the following notification appeared. Note, only place compostable waste in the organic waste bin. Although there was no resistance within the group to monitor proper waste separation, one member expressed initial concerns in the group discussion regarding applications for control in the living area. With her concerns, she did not meet the prevailing opinion in the group, so that she initially expressed this hesitantly. The findings reveal a number of issues and tensions arising around smart home applications within the shared apartment that we aim to foreground in our discussion. As this is an exploratory study, we do not seek to generalize any findings. However, we focus on 3 key takeaways: how the residents use sensor station and will suggest implications, opportunities, and obligations for future design in this research space. In particularly, we look at how the smart technology of sensor station is redrawing boundaries, reconfiguring the information dimension, and reconfiguring power structures. Our findings reveal that the setup made it difficult for residents to see how using sensor station severely redraw the boundaries between private and shared rooms. The design of sensor station was set up to broadcast all data accrued to the base station placed in the kitchen and to personal devices simultaneously. Both women use sensor station to perform self-monitoring with their respective private rooms. Even though the applications can be considered more private than sharing when someone entered the kitchen, both women did not express concerns about others checking those personal messages. One could argue that it was due to the close relationship within the group that they were comfortable with sharing that data. This could be read that both women did not have any concerns in sharing private messages in shared apartments, but we strongly argue otherwise. Both women only considered this form of self-monitoring as unproblematic because there was nothing at stake. It is easy to imagine a situation when something is at stake. Our findings indicate that it's easy to share data in a shared apartment when nothing is at stake. Our findings underlie that there was indeed a strong consensus in not revealing data that is considered private. Residents in our studies seem to follow the rationale that data from private rooms and sensed directly from people are off limits. The residents had agreed to only share data that already exists within the apartment. They considered it only logical to have access to digital information when they have access to that information in normal life as well. By gathering and displaying sensor data, Sensor Station has configured the information dimension within the shared apartment. While it is in theory possible to check if someone opened the fridge at 3 a.m., smart sensor technology logs and visualizes and further allows to prove whether someone opened the fridge door and when and how often. The collected data is persistent. It can be stored, and it could be further processed. Smart home applications have the power to make things visible that would normally not be visible. By just being there, smart technology has the power to test trust and to eventually undermine it. The residents expressed little interest in tracking sensor notifications from other participants. As one resident pointed out, this could only happen as the relationship within the group was so close. But what about people who are less familiar with each other and might not be as open in sharing their data? What about a potential future resident who is looking for a room in a shared apartment and does not want to consent to the smart technology used by existing residents, but desperately needs a room? Long-term tenants are in a more powerful position, and they may force potential future residents into consenting to certain technology use. What happens if someone does not want to share any data? There is an opportunity to design smart home systems that allow to configure spaces within shared apartments that reflect personal spaces like physical places do. Unsurprisingly, the findings of our study reveal that technology seems to configure power structures that favor those that already have more power to begin with. In contrast to a home consisting of parents with children, there's no natural hierarchy within the members of a shared apartment. Yet smart technology was able to change that, as we see in the examples above. Residents in our study repeatedly agreed on using sensor technology for behavioral change and even nudging towards compliant behavior. Technology might support people to change their behavior according to their wishes, like improving organic waste separation. Such forms of control could be considered positive and wanted because they are done for good. To save the environment by changing just a tiny bit of people's behavior. Residents welcomed the idea that sensor technology could give them concrete recommendations for action. They delegated responsibility to the smart sensors so that notifications were perceived and implemented as an instruction. It might be completely by chance that the most established resident was a rather outspoken advocate for imposing behavioral change towards compliant behavior by residents. The newest resident, on the contrary, was rather critical of such endeavors. She felt that if a change of behavior is imposed on people against their wishes, it could lead to serious challenges. And simultaneously, it is easy to consider the newest resident having even less power, as she is still new and in the process of moving in. It can be seen as problematic when behavior change is implemented and enforced by those with a power surplus. People may eventually decide for themselves whether they move into an apartment where the landlord monitors the humidity, or where the main tenant is doing so. Acceptance among users is just as important as making it transparent who has access to data and what it is being used for. Thank you.